A fatal shooting in a Louisville bank. We've got the latest.
How abortion rights are changing across the U.S.
A new Indiana law that will affect the LGBTQ community.
New faces for the fever. We'll tell you who.
And this week's weather forecast.
All this and more on UINDY TV.
From the campus of the University of Indianapolis, this is UINDY TV News.
Welcome. My name is Binks Puente.
And I'm Stephen Pagel. 5 people died following a mass shooting inside a Louisville bank, live streamed by the shooter Monday morning. Officials claim that 25-year-old Connor Sturgeon opened fire on his colleagues at a staff meeting at Old National Bank on Monday morning, killing at least 5 and injuring many more. Sturgeon was live streaming on Instagram at the time. Police arrived on the scene while he was still firing. Sturgeon was killed by police after a shootout with authorities. A source close to the investigation says Sturgeon recently learned he was being fired after working at the bank full-time for more than a year. Nicholas Wilt, a 26-year-old rookie officer, ran toward the gunfire and was shot in the head, and he is in critical condition. Wilt had graduated from the police academy on March 31st, just 10 days before the shooting. Members of the community are calling for action after yet another fatal shooting in America.
As more information is released on the deadly bank shooting, Ivan Rodriguez has the latest.
A week ago, she says she can't get into the other details as far as what was recovered in the home. Right now, city officials say that the AR-15 style weapon he shot for a minute and then waited in the lobby for a minute and a half for police to arrive. A community in mourning.
Our city is heartbroken for the loss of friends and loved ones.
Following another mass shooting in America. Audio from a Louisville Metro Police dispatcher shedding light on the terrifying moments Monday morning when a gunman opened fire during a staff meeting at Old National Bank.
25-year-old white male, Connor Sturgeon, 6'4". He texted a friend, called a friend, left a voicemail. He's going to kill everyone at the bank, feeling suicidal.
The horror unfolding live on the gunman's Instagram, which parent company Meta took down. Officials combing through that video say the shooting lasted for about a minute before Sturgeon was shot and killed by police. Investigators now searching for answers.
There was a search warrant and that was taking place on yesterday at his home. And so we are hoping that items that were recovered that will reveal why this happened.
As the city mourns the loss of 5 people, including 63-year-old Tommy Elliott, who some Kentucky lawmakers considered a friend.
Tommy was a great man.
Tommy touched a lot of lives.
Tommy Elliott helped me build my law career, helped me become governor, gave me advice on being a good dad.
Some members of the community are calling for action.
Somebody's family doesn't have a loved one tonight.
After yet another shock of gun violence.
We must work together to end this plague of gun violence on our country.
The mayor has also announced a citywide vigil Wednesday at 5 p.m. In Louisville, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
As investigations into the shooting continue, we will update you on the latest information.
An ex-NFL player is alleged in a lawsuit to have used drugs before passing away last year. In April 2022, a dump truck struck Dwayne Haskins on a highway in South Florida. The 24-year-old had a blood alcohol level more than double the legal limit at the time of his death, according to the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office. The Florida Highway Patrol reported that the former Steelers quarterback had run out of gas on the side of the Interstate 595 and had left his rental car on foot to look for gas. However, when he crossed the interstate, he was struck. This week, a lawyer acting on behalf of Haskins' wife and parents filed a lawsuit alleging that Haskins was not only drugged that night, but also blackmailed and robbed. The lawsuit does not discuss the allegations in more detail. The lawsuit does discuss the places Haskins visited prior to his passing, the driver of the truck that struck him, and the car rental company he used to obtain his rental vehicle. Up next, more important information regarding the abortion laws in Iowa, and more about the LGBTQ rights and the shooting in Texas on UINDY TV.
on 88.7 WICR.
88.7 The Diamond, the only jazz and classical station in Indianapolis, completely led by the students of the University of Indianapolis. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn app, FM radio, HD radios, or even on our website at wicronline.org, a different kind of public radio.
The Attorney General of Iowa is pausing all funding for Plan B emergency contraception and potentially abortion for rape victims. The General Attorney of Iowa, Brenna Bird, says she is considering whether a Plan B is an appropriate use of public funds. The state will be delaying the payment of any pending claims that would assist rape victims, only after her review has been completed. Since 1979, Iowa has provided abortions and Plan B emergency contraceptions for all sexual assault victims under the current program. Victims of rape have not been responsible for paying for any types of exams or medications as a result of the sexual assault. Planned Parenthood is calling Iowa's funding pause deplorable and reprehensible. Brenna Bird's press secretary says while not required by Iowa law, the Victim Compensation Fund has previously paid for Plan B and abortions. As a part of her top-down, bottom-up audit, a victim assistant, Attorney General Bird is carefully evaluating whether this is an appropriate use of public funds. Bird is a Republican and won her recent election after her Democratic opponent declined to Iowa's fetal heartbeat law, which would ban most abortions after about 6 weeks.
As other states discuss the abortion debate, plaintiffs in a medicinal abortion case have until Tuesday night to respond to requests for a hold on an order that would suspend the FDA approval of an abortion drug.
The clock is ticking for mifepristone. That's the first pill in the 2-dose regimen that can terminate a pregnancy through 10 weeks gestation.
This is a pill that's been around for more than 20 years, I believe 22 years. It's been used in 60 countries.
However, Texas federal judge Matthew Kaczmarek ruled the FDA should suspend approval of the drug, saying the agency didn't consider the trauma and stress women can suffer from ending a pregnancy.
We are ready to fight. This is going to be a long fight. We understand this. We stand by FDA's approval.
Dozens of officials from biotech and pharmaceutical companies signed an open letter backing the FDA's right to, quote, regulate safe, effective medicines for every American. Republican Representative Nancy Mace agrees, even though she considers herself pro-life.
I think that 90% would be okay with listening to the FDA rather than a judge who used an old law that was determined unconstitutional by the Supreme Court.
As the legal matter over the judge's ruling lies in limbo, abortion access varies significantly across the U.S.
Here in Texas, we have a heartbeat bill that was passed, and I think it's important that states dictate their futures, and we have to have the courts uphold these.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Cancer. The White House did say it will, quote, always follow the law in regard to if the FDA should ignore the ruling from Judge Kaczmarek.
It has not been a very positive week for the LGBTQ community in America. A White House debriefing talks about all the laws that were passed this past week, making states stricter.
This has been one of the worst weeks of 2023 so far in terms of anti-LGBTQ bills becoming law in states across America. 3 anti-LGBTQ laws have been enacted so far this week in Kansas, Indiana, and Idaho. Just yesterday, the North Dakota Senate passed 10 anti-LGBTQ bills in just one day, a single-day record. In Kansas, the state legislation overrode Governor Kelly's veto to make Kansas the 20th state that has banned transgender kids from participating in schools sports. With the enactment of a new law in Indiana, 14 states have now banned gender-affirming health care, while some of these laws are currently blocked by courts. This is a dangerous attack on the rights of parents to make the best health care decisions for their own kids.
The new Indiana law essentially prohibits transgender minors from accessing hormonal medication or any kind of health care that would help them transition. And after that, more states are looking into making their laws stricter as well.
Last night in Texas, shots were fired in a 28-year-old mother's home as she was with her 1- and 2-year-old toddlers in a domestic violence incident. There were 2 other victims inside the house when the incident occurred, ages 8 and 11, but they were able to escape unharmed by breaking windows in separate parts of the house. 3 out of 5 victims in the house were wounded, and the medical examiner's office has confirmed that one of the victims has died from their injuries. The domestic abuse incident occurred in San Antonio, Texas, and the suspect, Stephen Clare, age 50, is believed to be the woman's partner and was taken into custody last night near the scene. In an interview, the San Antonio Police William McMinnis stated, "This is infuriating with all the resources and effort we've put into assisting domestic violence victims and trying to prevent these things from happening. Here we are with a 1- and 2-year-old and a 28-year-old mom shot by her intimate partner." If you or someone else is affected by domestic violence, call 800-799-7233.
Stay tuned. Next up, Adriana Ojeda with sports.
Hey, it's Giselle here on 88.7 WICR.
88.7 The Diamond, the only jazz and classical station in Indianapolis, completely led by the students of the University of Indianapolis. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn app, FM radio, HD radios, or even on our website at wicronline.org, a different kind of public radio.
Man, we gotta take Bryce Young, right?
What did you say?
No, it's Bryce Young. It's obviously Bryce Young.
C.J. Stroud, the obvious pick for Steichen and the Colts.
Ohio State quarterbacks, we know they don't
I mean,
win.
come on. He's got the whole offense handed to him. Check out Last Call. We've got all the sports info you need from around the nation and right here on campus. Plenty of UINDY sports.
College football and college basketball.
The NFL.
The NBA.
MLB.
Don't forget about motorsports.
And I'll give you all the gambling picks you need to know to make some money right here on Last Call, Mondays at 4 o'clock on YouTube.
The world's a crazy place, and it's only getting crazier. And it seems like no one wants to talk about it. So I'm going to. That's why I created Real Talk, a roundtable discussion show where each week I bring on different guests to talk about hot-button issues in society. Join me every week to get your questions answered, Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
Hey, it's Giselle here on 88.7 WICR.
88.7 The Diamond, the only jazz and classical station in Indianapolis, completely led by the students of the University of Indianapolis. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn app, FM radio, HD radios, or even on our website at wicronline.org, a different kind of public radio.
The 2023 WNBA draft and the 28th draft in WNBA history took place at Spring Studios, New York last night. The draft consisted of 3 rounds with 12 picks in each round, leading 36 total athletes were drafted. The Indiana Fever came down with 5 of those 36, including the number 1 pick. Aaliyah Boston, an AP All-American and the 2021-2022 National Player of the Year out of South Carolina, was selected by the Indiana Fever's first ever number 1 overall pick. Following the number 1 pick was Grace Berger, drafted number 7 out of Indiana University. The Indiana Fever then selected Taylor Mikesell out of Ohio State with the 13th pick, and those Ladizia Williams from LSU with the 17th pick. The Fever's last pick at number 25 was Victoria Saxton, who also comes out of South Carolina with Aaliyah Boston. The Indiana Fever and these new additions look to improve their team after a very disappointing 5-31 record this past season. The NBA season has wrapped up, and the NBA play-in tournament gets underway tonight with the first 2 games. The NBA first introduced the lay-in tournament in the 2020-2021 season, and it came with the mixed fans' reactions. They eventually reached a conclusion that it is best for the NBA to keep the play-in tournament in place. This season's play-in tournament begins tonight, where we will learn the first 2 teams to clinch their place to the NBA playoffs. The winners of tonight's games will clinch the 7th seed. The loser of the games tonight will play the winner of tomorrow's games between the 9 seed and 10 seed for the final 2 spots. Tonight's 2 games feature are very good teams that could make noise should they get into the playoffs, with the 7th seed Miami Heat hosting the 8th seed Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference. Winners playing the Boston Celtics in the Western Conference. The 7th seeded Los Angeles Lakers will face the 8th seed Minnesota Timberwolves, with the winner of that game moving to face the Memphis Grizzlies. Looking towards tomorrow, the Toronto Raptors will host the Chicago Bulls in the East, and the New Orleans Pelicans and will take on the Oklahoma City Thunder in the West. The winners of those games facing the loser of tonight's games for the 8th and final seed in the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs set underway on Saturday, April 15th. In big UIndy news, the Crimson Nets are heading back to Indianapolis National Championships following a very successful weekend in Orlando. Last Thursday, the UIndy Crimson Nets dance team flew to the Sunshine State to attend the Dance Team Union College Classics. After winning the national title last year, they had a legacy to protect this time around. Led by head coach Carly Bocek, the ladies competed in team performance and introduced a palm routine to their national roster. After finishing the prelim round 3rd in team performance with a raw score of 80.44 and 1st in palm with a raw score of 83.7, the Greyhounds pulled out all the stops in the final rounds. Saturday evening, the Crimson Nets were dubbed the Division II Palm National Championships, falling with a final score of 87.42. They added a second place finish in Division II's performance with a final score of 84.26. UINDY TV sends our congratulations to the Crimson Nets on an incredible season. Go Hounds! Sending it back to the desk, we've seen some exciting victories for UINDY sports this past few weeks.
Stay tuned. Next up, our meteorologist Lenny Graysmeyer will walk us through this week's forecast.
Hey, it's Giselle here on 88.7 WICR.
88.7 The Diamond, the only jazz and classical station in Indianapolis, completely led by the students of the University of Indianapolis. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn app, FM radio, HD radios, or even on our website at wicronline.org, a different kind of public radio.
Man, we gotta take Bryce Young, right?
What did you say?
No, it's Bryce Young. It's obviously Bryce Young.
C.J. Stroud, the obvious pick for Steichen and the Colts.
Ohio State quarterbacks, we know they don't
I mean,
win.
come on. He's got the whole offense handed to him. Check out Last Call. We've got all the sports info you need from around the nation and right here on campus. Plenty of UINDY sports.
College football and college basketball.
The NFL.
The NBA.
MLB.
Don't forget about motorsports.
And I'll give you all the gambling picks you need to know to make some money right here on Last Call, Mondays at 4 o'clock on YouTube.
The world's a crazy place, and it's only getting crazier. And it seems like no one wants to talk about it. So I'm going to. That's why I created Real Talk, a roundtable discussion show where each week I bring on different guests to talk about hot-button issues in society. Join me every week to get your questions answered, Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
Joining us now, our meteorologist Lenny Graysmeyer. Lenny, a beautiful day outside. Can we expect it to stick around?
The weather here in Indianapolis has been beautiful, and good news, we have more of the great weather on the way. Let's look at what's bringing us this beautiful spring weather. Here on our surface map, you can see that we have a high pressure system in the south that is providing us atmospheric stability. The orange line at the east coast is the dry line that's brought the pleasant spring weather. However, this cold front up in the northwest will bring us some temperature changes later this week. Looking at our 5-day forecast this beautiful spring weather will stick around with highs in the 70s all week. Then we can see where this cold front is going to impact us on Saturday, leaving us with a high of 59 on Sunday. Back to you guys.
More than 11 million refugees from the war in Ukraine have fled to Poland since Russia invaded in February 2022. Around 87% of these crossing the border are women and children, Poland's EU representation tweeted on Tuesday. At the beginning of April, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees reported that just over 10.6 million people had crossed the border. This means that nearly 400,000 people have traveled from Ukraine to Poland in just the last week. There are currently more than 1.5 million Ukrainian refugees currently living in Poland and more than 3.5 million Ukrainian refugees settled in other European countries. The UNHCR reports Poland's European Union said, quote, "All these fleeing the war will find shelter and all the help they need in Poland." We will keep you updated on the number of Ukrainian refugees making way for Poland.
Nearly 100 lives were lost in Myanmar after a military junta bombing earlier today, according to the shadow government of the ousted administration. The bombing occurred early this morning in the Sagaing region of Myanmar. A local news outlet reports that a military junta aircraft dropped 2 bombs and fired on the village as the citizens were gathered for the opening of a new towing office. The National Unity Government's Ministry of Labor described the attack as a heinous act and a war crime. However, the military junta has not yet commented on the tragedy that took place. This massacre is one of many after a military coup leading to the downfall of the Burmese government in February 2021. Alongside the lives lost, the economy has collapsed and there are shortages of basic supplies for the country.
A new proposal in the Michigan legislature that would mandate the state education department to create a cursive program. Cody Butler with more on this new proposal.
It's definitely something that's important for children.
Dawn Schneider has 5 kids in 2 different school districts. Her younger kids going to school in Lenawee County are taught to write cursive, but her older kids in Hillsdale County aren't.
My son signed some papers the other day and was like trying to apologize to the person. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to, sign my name, so I'm just going to have to write it out.
Schneider is one of many parents supporting a change to state law requiring the state education department to develop a cursive writing program and make it available for schools. The proposal would also strongly encourage schools to adopt the program.
I think it's a good idea. I think that all kids should know how to do cursive, so easier in their lifetime when they get a job.
Nate Temperley's kids are also taught to read and write in cursive, but he feels it's because it's tradition. Instead, he'd rather see other skills taught in class.
American Sign Language would be a much more useful investment in time because then kids are actually learning a completely different way of communicating that might be more valuable.
He says that's because cursive isn't common outside of school.
In a professional career at 45, I basically never use cursive in my daily life.
Despite that, Schneider says learning cursive is an important life skill.
It's something that's important for children to have signatures.
Up next, we're talking about National Pet Day and support plushies. Stay with us.
The world's a crazy place, and it's only getting crazier. And it seems like no one wants to talk about it. So I'm going to. That's why I created Real Talk, a roundtable discussion show where each week I bring on different guests to talk about hot button issues in society. Join me every week to get your questions answered, Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
Man, we gotta take Bryce Young, right?
What did you say?
No, it's Bryce Young. It's obviously Bryce Young.
C.J. Stroud, the obvious pick for Steichen and the Colts.
Ohio State quarterbacks, we know they don't
I mean,
win.
come on. He's got the whole offense handed to him. Check out Last Call. We've got all the sports info you need from around the nation and right here on campus. Plenty of UINDY sports.
College football and college basketball.
The NFL.
The NBA.
MLB.
Don't forget about motorsports.
And I'll give you all the gambling picks you need to know to make some money right here on Last Call, Mondays at 4 o'clock on YouTube.
Make sure to get your hugs and kisses ready because in case you forgot, today is National Pet Day. National Pet Day is an occasion to pay special attention to your beloved animal companion, regardless of their species. While some people prefer dogs over cats and others might prefer fish or snakes, National Pet Day is a time to make sure your pet is provided with the best possible environment to keep them happy. Whether this means getting them a new toy, upgrading their food and drink bowls, or taking them for a nice candlelit dinner, try to give your animal best friend a day they will never forget. Having a pet is more beneficial than you think. According to the National Institutes of Health, not only can pets steal our hearts, but they can also contribute to overall cardiovascular health by lowering cortisol, cholesterol, and blood pressure levels.
That's it for us today. Thank you for spending your evening with UINDY TV. This is Binks and Steven signing out.